Hi, this is John Baker, and I'm with the Lancaster-Lebanon IU13 Safety and Security Department. You know, recently we've been getting a lot of schools reaching out to us and saying, hey, what type of secondary locking devices can we install in our classrooms and in our office buildings to help keep bad guys out when violence occurs? So today we're going to do just that. We're going to install some devices. We're going to install some devices that have been manufactured specifically for this purpose. And then we're also going to take a few minutes and show you some kind of do-it-yourself solutions. Some of these solutions might be $20 or $30 per door, depending on how fancy the device is that you might order from a manufacturer. Others are as simple as 50 cents, buying a bolt and drilling a couple holes. So we're going to kind of give you that whole range. You need to know that IU13 does not endorse any one of these products, but I can tell you that we're not going to show you any techniques today that we wouldn't be comfortable with. But to tell you that, hey, this is the best one, or you should only use that one, we're not going to do that, because the reality is there's been a lot of great people out there over the last couple of years that have come up with some really innovative solutions. We'll show those to you. We'll probably even be putting those links on our webpage at safetysolutionsforschools.com, and then it'll be up to you to see which one works best for you. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, hey, there's just a few things we want to talk about before we get this first device installed, and that has to do with your local building code and your local fire department. Depending where you live, they may have some concerns with hardware that you're installing, but I can tell you as a rule of thumb, they do not want a secondary device installed on a door that is complete. In other words, one of those traditional slide bolts that you think about, or one of those chain locks from a hotel room that you probably remember. Those types of things are generally not acceptable because the entire device is on the door all the time. What we're going to be showing you today is some solutions that has part of the hardware installed, and then when there is a crisis, an emergency, you can go get the remaining hardware and bring that together with what's already on the door and go ahead and create a secondary locking device. Another thing I want you to think about is, as you look at all these different options and devices, is how easy is this going to be to do in a crisis situation? Not when you're calm and collect and you can just kind of take your time doing it, but can you get this thing put on quickly when you hear the screaming and the yelling and seconds count? So that's one thing you ought to think about. The second thing you need to think about is, can it be universal? In other words, people throughout your building, staff and students, can they use these techniques to use the secondary locking devices? We don't want to do something that, unless you're 6 foot tall and you work out every day, that you can manipulate this thing, or you can reach way up high on a door jamb to get to. So you got to be thinking about all different body types, all different limitations and abilities throughout your building, and hopefully find somewhat of a universal secondary locking device that'll work. Thirdly, talking about that universal application, statistically, only about 20% of the time are classrooms in session when these violent incidences, like an active shooter, actually occur. The rest of the time, people are out moving around, they're at lunch, they're in the hallways between classes, they're out in the parking lots. But if people would need to flee to your room, and it might not be your room if you're the teacher, or it might not be your homeroom student, but it's going to be a room. So if something bad's happening and you realize that running's not a real good option and you need to get into one of those rooms, are you going to be able to find that secondary locking device? So we want to think about that idea of a universal application whenever we can. We need to remember that ease of installation, that's another one you got to think about. Body types and limitations of the people in your building. And of course the third one is you got to consider your local building codes and fire departments, and make sure that before you spend a bunch of money on a certain device that you just fell in love with, that they're even going to allow you to install that device. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started on installing our first device. We just got done installing some basic hardware for our first solution. This is a do-it-yourself solution for an outswing door, like most of our classroom doors are today. This solution is going to cost you probably $1.50 a door, Probably take about 5 minutes per door to actually install, and it's just a real simple solution. So let's talk about it. First, what we did was we installed an eye bolt just like this into the door, right here. We're just below the lock, and we've installed that eye bolt. And then we drilled a hole with the door closed. We took our drill, we stuck it through that eye bolt and into the jamb, and we drilled that hole out. That's all you have to do to install it. The only other piece of hardware you're going to need is a 1/2-inch bolt, 4 to 5 inches long, and we'll show you how this works on the inside. So let's go inside the classroom. Well, here we are. We're inside the classroom. You can see our eye bolt right here. You can see the bolt that we have. And what you do is, now the door's locked and closed. You get your bolt, you slip it through the eye bolt and right into that hole that we drill in the jamb. Now, if that lock is compromised, until you can bend that bolt, or you can tear that eye bolt out of this solid wooden door, this door is not opening. This is a great solution. So the last question is, what do we do with this bolt? Particularly if this is going to be the solution for all through the building, you don't want somebody in a crisis having to run around going, oh my gosh, where's the bolt? Where's the bolt so that I can lock it? What I would suggest is think about Velcro. Velcro is a great thing. Now, I put this up a little high here today. You may want to have it a little bit lower, depending what works for you. Or maybe you want to use a desk drawer. You could use a desk drawer where everybody knows it's in the center desk drawer of every teacher's desk in the building. Whatever you do, try to make it universal. Remember ease of getting. This is simple Velcro, so you can just grab it off and stick it in your secondary device, and you're secure. That's our first solution for the outswing door. Here we are with solution number 2 for an outswing door, like we have in most of our schools today. This particular solution comes to us from a manufacturer, a few dollars a piece. I believe they come in packs of 3 or 4 to a pack. We have a good heavy nylon strap here, about 1 inch wide. Looks like it is stitched and fused together to create this loop. Then we have this plastic claw and a tensioner. So again, this could live with Velcro on a door jamb. It could live in a desk drawer. But whatever you do, it's pretty simple to put on. So you have that locked door. You take this hoop and you slip it over your lock. You take the claw and you hook it on the casing of the door, and there you go. Once again, until this strap can break or this lock assembly can be completely removed from the door, this is a pretty good option and pretty easy to put in. In terms of the manufactured solutions, this and a wedge that we're going to show you for an in-swing door a little bit are probably the most affordable ones that you can get from a manufacturer. So again, a pretty good solution. We're on to our third solution for traditional classrooms with outswing doors. This one involves a tension strap. Gee, most retailers or hardware stores, you can buy a pack of 6 of these for probably $10, $12. They've got that traditional rubber-coated steel hook, again with the nylon strap. This particular one doesn't have the ratchet style, but it has the friction tensioner. And then we've got a scrap of wood. Just got this out of my shop, drilled a couple holes in it. This could very easily be in a closet off to the side. It's a little bit bigger. It's probably, we have one other device that's of a similar size, but this is probably one of the larger devices. But think what it would look like if you installed 2 of these eye bolts into the door. Okay? 2 eye bolts into the door. Then when you need this device, you simply pull it out. It straddles both sides of the jamb. Hook, hook, hit the tensioner, draw up the tension, and this is a snug down solution. Now, one of the things we do want to remember, particularly classrooms with windows in them, statistically we have been seeing some trends where violent people have figured out if I break this glass and I reach into this doorknob, because of building codes and fire codes, this is what's called a live handle. It's going to open up. So we do want to be mindful of installing devices up high where a person, if they took some time, could break the glass out and then maybe get a hold of the ratchet and loosen this device up and unhook it. By keeping it down here, there's really no way that somebody could reach down and get to the device. So I always recommend putting it in low, This particular device does not rely upon the doorknob. Remember that other manufactured device that we had just looked at a few minutes ago? That would be one of the potential downfalls. If somebody had a shotgun or continued to shoot into this door assembly, if this doorknob goes away, that last strap that we looked at could be compromised. Although I don't see that as a significant issue, but it could happen. That's another advantage to keeping secondary devices kind of away from the lock. If the guy on the outside of the door isn't sure what's happening in here and he's just blasting away at that knob, even if he completely shoots that knob out of the door, he still hasn't defeated this or impacted this at all because it's nice and low. So, another DIY solution, if you will. Piece of 2x4, a strap, a couple of these old eye bolts, and you've got a great secondary locking device. You don't see these around much anymore, but this is the old style crash bars. A couple solutions for these. Again, these are outswing doors, and we're just about wrapping up our section on devices to secure outswing doors. Of course, a lot of you are probably familiar with the old chain and padlock solution. Okay, we've got that solution. Some of you may want to consider a bike type cable instead of chain. That would be an option. Now, of course, remember, you can't have these chains and locks on while the building is occupied. And you would need to think about a place where maybe this could be stored, okay? Here we happen to be in a kitchen area, so maybe it's right inside this first drawer that those things go along with the lock. And when a crisis happens, you go to grab them out, quickly put them on here. If that doesn't work for you, and you have those newer devices, we've got a solution for the new panic bars as well. Because obviously the new ones, you can't quite do chains. So let's go ahead and take a look at a set of new doors. Here we are, new style panic hardware here. Obviously you don't have those old handles that we talked about where a chain can simply just loop through. You know, but that doesn't mean that you can't incorporate things like eye hooks, okay? Installing some eye hooks either up high or down low. There you'd be more likely to probably use a cable like this that you could fish through those eye hooks. So that would be one solution. And the other solution would be to reintroduce that technique we had for the classroom with the piece of wood and the strap and a couple eye hooks. You could do that here. Now this is only about a 4-foot piece, and obviously that's not going to work for this door jamb. But you know, think about what that looks like to come in here with a board that would run the whole way across, and again have a couple eye hooks installed that we can hook up to and latch them right on. Again, this is a pretty big and bulky problem. Where do you store it? In close proximity to the door. But hey, it's an option out there, and it's a very affordable option. So we're going to be ready to go on to in-swing doors as we continue our little journey here today looking at secondary locking devices. So stay with us. Hey, here's another kind of do-it-yourself solution for outswing doors in our classrooms. Now this one, much like that manufactured strap that we showed you a little while ago that clawed the side of the door jamb, relies upon the existing doorknob. There's nothing stopping you from installing an eye bolt somewhere else on this door so that you don't have to rely upon that eye bolt. You can do that exact same thing with that strap that we showed you. Now, of course, that had a loop on the end and not a hook like this. So in that situation, you would probably need to install a hook, like an oversized teacup hook, if you can kind of think of that style, down low on the door, that you could grab a hold of that with the strap and then claw and grab a hold of the jamb. This one really relies upon you probably doing a little bit of rearranging and moving some furniture. Think about what a big filing cabinet, a wall locker, something of substance that has some weight, and you would put it here inside the door. Okay, instead of having this, this short little table here, you'd have that big 4-drawer filing cabinet, have that wall locker filling this space. When you have that crisis, you go to that cabinet, you pull out one of these straps. Again, these are the kind that you get at just about any retailer or home store that come in packs of 2, 6, 10. You get into some of those outlet stores, you can buy them in bulk. This involves grabbing a hold of the doorknob, here, and then going over to any type of handle that's on this cabinet, like a filing cabinet drawer handle, hooking the other end on there and cinching it tight. Again, now, as long as this strap holds, we're in good shape. You do have some vulnerability by latching onto the knob. So another solution would be to go ahead and install an eye bolt down low and then use a lower hook on the filing cabinet door. And again, a great secondary device, easy to do, not real complicated. You'll just need to figure out where you want to put this, and I would suggest probably in the filing cabinet that you're going to be anchoring to. Okay? So there's another solution for outswing classroom doors, really affordable. We're going to transition right now, and we're going to start talking about in-swing doors. In-swing doors. You don't see many of these in traditional schools anymore. Typically, we're dealing primarily with the outswing doors. But when you get into the school office, when you get into the counseling office, and those non-public kind of spaces, we're still seeing some in-swing doors. So imagine here that we are inside of a principal's office, a guidance counselor's office, maybe a sports coach office, and this is our door leading out into the hallway or to some common area. So, of course, we already talked about this idea of not being allowed to, do some permanent installing of hardware that is complete. We couldn't have that latch on here like in a hotel. And quite frankly, these can be defeated pretty easily. But I do want to spend a second before we start talking about these different devices to just mention that the hardware that you already have on your doors, many of you may not realize it, but this little keeper here, the part that your door handle latches into, is often and generally secured with a screw here that's about 3/4 of an inch. They are often soft metals like brass, so that if somebody kicks this door from the outside, the only thing that's really keeping you safe with this particular knob, even if it's a good heavy commercial steel knob, is this little screw. Because if that plate gets knocked out and the wood behind it gets shattered, this door is coming open. So one of the things you can do is to go around in your building and switch from this to something more like this. This will not only go through the finished jamb, it'll go through that wood and into the framework inside the wall. So it's going to really increase the durability of your existing hardware. So take some time, talk to your building maintenance and engineers, talk to the local locksmith that you've been using in your school or district, and have a conversation about upgrading from this to something much more substantial. Okay? So, with that in mind, we want to show you a couple devices right now. A couple of them are manufactured, and we've got one tried and true solution that really just kind of works great. This is basically a free solution. Any school that has a wood shop, if you've got some people on staff who are hobbyists, at worst case scenario, you got to run out to the hardware store and buy a couple 2x4s, but a good old-fashioned wooden wedge. You take that wedge and you've got your door locked and you kick that wedge into place, that's not going anywhere. Now this happens to be a carpeted floor, so we've got lots of friction. If you're not that lucky to have carpeted floor, you can buy all different products at your hardware store that are anti-skid. Some of them are self-adhesive, some of them you might need to tack on, but then you could just simply apply something to the bottom to give you some traction if you have a more traditional linoleum floor in your office space. Again, how would we store these? Got a little Velcro button here. Could very easily just put that door wedge right up there. Not any simpler. Couldn't be any simpler of a solution. There are some manufacturers that have done a totally awesome job kicking up the wedge. Here's, I guess, here's the wedge that your mom and dad knew. Here's today's wedge. Kind of sounds like the old Oldsmobile commercials, doesn't it? This wedge is a plastic wedge, really resistant. Has rubberized corners and edges on it, so if you do have that linoleum floor issue, not a problem. This wedge can also be used, you can use it up here, you can use it down there. It's just got some neat little accessories with it. Obviously the color is great. You can quickly pick it out. Again, here you could put a little finish nail on a door jamb somewhere, and you could just hang that up and it would be ready to use. Great solution, just a couple bucks a piece. Again, compared to what you could spend for some of these, very affordable. You don't have that many in-swing doors in most schools anyhow. So, wedges, great solution. Okay, upgrading those screw lengths from the little finish screws to a nice long beefy screw that'll actually tie you right back into the framing of the door. Great solution. Another manufacturer out there, and these folks were just great. They were very excited to hear that we were getting ready to do this video, and they sent us some samples. This is a solution, and I should take a second and say that all of these solutions are great for whether it's at school or your mind's even wondering about your own house. Gee, what could I do to beef up my front door? What could I do to beef up a bedroom door if I knew I needed to kind of lock down in there if there was a burglar that broke into our house? How do I buy that time until the police come and take care of the bad guy or he flees? And where can I go in my house and keep me and my family safe? Folks like this have got some great solutions. This actually involves drilling a hole in your floor. We're not going to do that today. We're in a school that we're not going to be permanently installing this in. So you would drill a hole, apply some adhesive to the back of this, and sit that down in. Now you've got this down here at the bottom of the door. That'll be flush to the floor, and then this device simply gets dropped into that hole, and you can kick and beat this door, shoot the lock off, do whatever you got to do, but until you can move this heavy steel piece of hardware, this door is not going to open. The thing I like about this is it has a nice wide surface. This corresponding plate gets mounted to your door, so now you've got all that contact surface there. This is a fantastic solution, a great solution. Again, may not work everywhere. It only works on in-swing applications, so not everybody's going to be able to use this with their doors. But this is a great solution, not only at school but also at home. Thanks to the manufacturers for providing us a sample of this for this video, and their link should be on our website as well. One other solution that I want to show you today for in-swing doors, and that involves another manufacturer who's come up with a super durable solution, kind of similar to, it's a variation of our 2x4 solution that we had in the outswing doors. This one, they give you these really great beefy pieces of hardware, and talk about good heavy hardware that gets tied right back in to the framing of that door. And you install one of these on each side, okay, each side of your door, and these will go right into the studs, the framing, okay. This one is marked R for right, and there's a corresponding one for left. And then once you have these installed, they can just kind of lay flat. You could paint them to match the wall color, whatever you want to do. You have this leaning in the corner. Nobody really knows what this thing's going to be used for. It's just kind of there. And when the time comes, you simply just pick this bar up, swing out your two little pieces of hardware, and drop the bar in. Again, they can kick at that door all day long, and until they can bend this steel bar, it's going to have you secure. So that's pretty much it for our in-swing doors. Last thing I want to say before we transition into prop and lock devices that'll help you with your classroom doors is that you need to remember the whole reason we're doing this lockdown, the whole reason we're fortifying these doors is because there's a body of data out there that has been studied by both federal, state agencies that has realized that particularly when it comes to active shooters coming to our schools around the country, They're figuring out how to overcome the standard traditional lock that we're finding in most of our classrooms. That's why we need to add a secondary device. And of course, remember, we're really trying to buy those precious minutes until law enforcement arrives and the situation is resolved. As many of you are probably aware, these situations are lasting 6 to 10 minutes typically. It seems like an eternity when you're in the middle of that, but you're trying to buy those valuable minutes. So even if that bad guy's on the other side of the door working at getting in your door, we want to make sure that we've got hardware and barricading and countermeasures in place so that it can be taken care of and that situation can be resolved before they ever get inside to your room and cause you and the people that you're with harm. So that's what this is all about, is keeping people safe and surviving these really violent incidences that are occurring in our schools. So we'll be talking about prop and lock in our next segment. Hey, we're just about done with our secondary locking device video today, but I didn't want to leave this time without talking about prop and lock. A lot of schools around the country are already doing this. You've gotten into the habit of locking that door. It stays locked all day long, and the door is simply propped open. And when class is in session, you can just shut the door and have your privacy and block out those distractions that might be happening out in the hallway or in some of those common areas. We're doing this because we came to realize through a series of events that teachers are busy teaching kids, and they've got a lot of stuff going on, and they come in their classrooms in the morning and they unlock their doors, and then their keys end up in a desk drawer, end up in their pocketbook, end up in a jacket pocket, which is hanging on the back of a chair. Then all of a sudden we have a bad thing happen and lockdown is announced. And now that teacher has potentially got to find those keys. Meanwhile, the kids are starting to become worried and concerned. They then got to step out into the hallway to lock the outside of the knob, and there you're putting yourself potentially in harm's way. Maybe the bad guy is right in your area to get that door shut. So that's just a lot to do. So quite a few years ago, schools figured it out, and they said, hey, we're going to prop our doors, but we're going to keep them locked all the time. Okay? So one of the solutions to that is, how can we provide devices that we can have the door shut, but if a student comes in late or if a student has to go in and out for specials, that they don't have to knock on the door so that the teacher or somebody lets them back in. So that's the devices that we're going to spend a minute talking about. And we're going to be talking about 3 different types of devices that we can use to reinforce this prop and lock idea. One of the things we hear from staff about prop and lock is, particularly if you shut the door while the class is in session just to block out that noise, is that every time a staff member comes or a student flows in and out of the room, they've got to knock on the door because the door's locked from the outside, and it kind of interrupts the flow of the class and interrupts the teacher while they're teaching. So some folks have come up with some devices to allow this door to stay locked, but if you have the door shut for that privacy and noise control, students can still flow in and out because the latch is not actually going to be getting seated into the striker. So the first one is magnetic. It's a magnetic strip. You would simply put it over there. That way, when you release the door and have it closed while you're teaching, it'll swing. But because the striker is closed, it can't seat the lock, and somebody from the outside will always be able to pull and let themselves in and out. When an emergency happens, you just need to bump the door open far enough to grab this and then pull the door shut, and it'll latch and the door will be locked. Now in some schools, this striker is not metallic. Here they're actually aluminum, so our magnet doesn't work here, so we need to come up with another solution. Another solution would be right up here, this little gizmo, and maybe we can pull in a little bit and get a closer view of this. I'm going to have our camera guy come in a little bit closer. This little thing is a great little gizmo, and the link to this will be on our website, safetysolutionsforschools.com. And the great thing about this device is it's self-adhesive. You put it on there. Now when that door closes, and I'm going to close the door here real quick. Now when that door closes, this little metal tab keeps that from latching. So kids and staff can come and go as they need to. Emergency happens, you simply just take your finger, throw that down. Now that tab is no longer in the way and the door is secure. Okay? So again, a really great solution, super cheap, super affordable. Okay, we've got one more solution. And go ahead and back up there a little bit and I'll show you this last one. This solution is another great one, and our link to this will be on our website. There's a bunch of different configurations depending on your door jamb. This particular manufacturer does rely upon you having metal jambs. This is an older school that we're at today, and these are actually wooden jambs, so they wouldn't work here. But basically this solution is there's magnets here, okay? And you remember how we're trying to cover over that strike plate, okay? So that strike plate can be covered over with the use of magnets, and this plate then denies that. This lanyard, okay, would simply be screwed to your jamb so that you would have that covered. When an emergency comes, you simply just grab this. This will hang free, okay, and you can shut the door. Again, depending on your jamb style, your metal door jamb style, in your school, they have a variety of configurations, but the whole idea is magnetic, easy to remove, okay, these are nice, nice sized pieces of hardware that you can readily grab, and they've got this great little lanyard. You know, previously today we've been talking about using Velcro and having things, this will keep it right with the door all the time. You never have to worry about it getting lost, okay? So another great solution. You know, like we said when we first started this video, there's been a lot of great people all across our country and, well, frankly, across the world who have been looking at ways to make our classrooms safer with secondary locking devices. And as I told you, here at the IU, we're not going to endorse any one of those products, but we are going to tell you that the stuff that we showed you today, we believe can work. And you simply need to find the one that's going to be the best application for your folks in your building. And we wish you the best of luck with that. If you have any questions about secondary locking devices, feel free to check out our website. It's safetysolutionsforschools.com. You'll see our contact information there. If you have any questions about this video or other safety issues, hey, you know what? The phone call is always free. Pick up the phone and give us a call. We'll love to spend a few minutes with you on the phone and help get you in the right direction. So you folks have a great day and have a safe day too.